Hello, superstar. So today we are looking at our inequalities. But the good news is we're going to refresh our memory and look at some of the 7th grade information first. So our objective again, it says solve our linear inequalities using addition or subtraction. So basic information first, and then we're going to graph our solutions. But today's graphs, if you remember from 7th grade, are primarily just going to be on your number line. So let's see what we can do. And there will be a point in the video that we will pause and pass out the worksheet and just look at the homework, a few questions, and see if we can get you guys started on that assignment before you leave. All right, so our inequality again is used to state when two expressions are not equal. Now remember, there are some, though, that will include the equal part, like less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, but it's obviously not just equal to. And of course, you're going to see some more advanced ones in high school, but again, trying to refresh your memory for these here. Now, traditionally, this is not how I personally like them written. It says 6 is greater than x. So again, left hand less than. That's not with your left hand, that's with your right hand there. So 6 is greater than x. Now, a lot of the time students prefer, and they use a little trick, especially when they graph it, if the variable is on the left-hand side. Now, if you notice, it is not currently on the left-hand side, but maybe next to it, go ahead and write it as x is less than 6. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a rewriting to try and help you guys out, to especially help with those graphs. So again, 6 is greater than x is the same thing as saying x is less than 6. So it says too many solutions to list. So for example, x is less than 6, which would be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, and so on. But it also includes fractions and decimals. So again, too many to list, so we're going to make a quick number line. So the way that we'll remind you again from 7th grade is, first of all, what's the important number? Is it an open dot or is it a closed dot? And which way is the shading going to go? So the easiest way for me to make it is just a quick number line, put the number 6 in the middle because that is the important number. Put a number on each side, so it means I should see a 5, 6, and 7 on my number line. It is an open dot because there's no equal part. And then again, the way that I wanted you to write it a little bit better would say x is less than 6. The numbers less than 6 go to the left. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, and so on. So one of the issues that some students have, again, is trying to remember the correct graphing, but also the words. And the words, again, is a little bit more difficult for some students. So we got a little box here with 4 possibilities. Now, if you notice, they all have a 5. They all have an x. Our inequality signs are different. And sometimes the location is different as well. For example, on that first one, it says 5 is greater than x. Again, I personally don't like it when it's written that way. So I like changing it or rewriting it so that it would be x is less than 5. Remember from elementary school, the little crocodile still wants to eat the bigger item. So that's why it is still open to the 5 when I rewrite it. X is less than 5. Same thing on the last one. It says 5 is greater than or equal to x. I personally prefer x is less than or equal to 5. Again, the crocodile still wants the 5. So that's what I just was talking about right there, reading and writing your inequalities starting with the variable. So if it says 5 is greater than x, we change it to x is less than 5. A graph, again, would have an open dot. X is less than 5. That would be shading to the left. When we do our graphs for our actual homework again, we're going to put a total of 3 numbers, the important number in the middle, 1 on each side. So for the next one, you've got the greater than or equal to, because you got that little bar underneath it. So when I make my graph, I need a closed dot. Greater than 5 would be 6, 7, and so on. Sorry, did I say 5, 6, and 7? I meant 4, 5, and 6. How weird. Early morning. shading to the right. So the only difference with the one that we just did and the next one is there's no equal to part. X is greater than 5. So it means we are going to have an open dot and shading to the right. And on this last one again, we already said that you can rewrite it as x is less than or equal to 5. So we say x is less than or equal to 5, and then quick shading. All right, going to ask you to pause the video and let people catch up with some of their writing here. Go ahead and pause, please. All right, and welcome back. That should have been enough time to be able to finish that table there with the inequality, the words, and the graph. So we're going to do a few problems now to go ahead and practice it. So it says solve the inequality and graph the solution. So on our first one, it says x plus 20. So again, we're just doing a single step here, whether it's adding or subtracting. So we're going to go ahead and subtract 20 both sides, just like we've done with our our equations since August. These basic inequalities are the same thing. So we have x is less than 28. So what we want to do next, again, is a quick graph. So off to the right, go ahead and make a number line. Our number line will have our important number in the middle, one number on each side, and then reminding ourselves from 7th grade is x is less than 28, meaning there's no equal part, so that's going to be an open dot. And then we're going to shade to the left. Two reasons why. It says x is less than 28, so 27 is less than 28. In fact, all the numbers on the left side of 28 are less than 28. And another way, as long as you have it written with the variable on the left-hand side, it kind of looks like it's pointing an arrow. So again, that looks like the tip of the arrow, so we're going to make our shading go left. Now, a few ways to do the shading. Again, some students with their pencil, they just make it darker going to the left. Some students actually raise it up and then make it go to the left. Some students use a highlighter and make it go to the left. Regardless, it has to go to the left. Where on our next one, it says subtract 8. So our inverse operation, again, is add 8 both sides. So we have m is greater than or equal to 30. So when we make our number line graph off to the side, remember it's just going to be a quick number line with 3 numbers. 30 is going to be in the center and then 1 on each side. Now this time it does have the equal part, so we are going to include the concept of a filled or closed dot. That again means that our solution does include the 30. So it doesn't just really get close to it like it did on the previous one. On the previous one, it gets really, really close to 28, but does not include 28. Where on this one, it gets really, really close to 30, and it does include 30 because it has a closed dot, because it has the equal part. Now, our shading, again, the way we read it, m is greater than or equal to 30, which means 31 is greater than 30, which is on the right side, so we shade to the right. Or, again, the little trick is it looks like it's pointing to the right, so we shade to the right. All right, instead of doing partner work, we're just going to do these two together as well. The first thing I'd like you to notice is it's not written very well. And by that, I mean, you know what? I really don't like that the variable is on the other side. So there's a few ways to do it. You can fix it now, or you can fix it at the end. But regardless, I think it's personally easier if students have the variable on the left. So if you wanted to solve first, it would be adding 2 to both sides. So we have 2 is less than a W. Let me see if my pen tablet's going to work right now. So if you don't like that, again, it is preferred if you write it as W and the 2. Now remember from elementary school, the crocodile wants the greater item, which is the W, which is the W. So when it's written like that, it's a little bit easier for students to remember the graphing. it is read as W is greater than 2. So when you go to graph it, again, we have an open dot, and the shading is going to go to the right because, again, it is greater than 2. All right, on the next one, subtract 0.4 from both sides, which is going to give us a 0.7. But again, if you don't like it written like that, like I don't, I would say n and 0.7. And according to our inequality this time, it does not like the variable, it likes the number, meaning it is open with the equal part towards the 0.7. Again, inequality, the mouth, crocodile, open, yeah. So when we graph it, we are going to remember that it will be a closed dot. Closed dot on 0.7. And the shading, and again, this is why we do it written with the variable on the left-hand side. N is less than or equal to 0.7. Well, that's going to be the 0.6. Or again, the shading goes to the left because it looks like it's pointing to the left. So again, just a quick refresher. Go ahead and pause the video, please, so we can pass out the worksheet and look at just a few problems together before you guys work on the remaining part of the worksheet. All right, go ahead and pause and pass out the worksheet, please. All right, looks like we had one word problem. We'll actually see some of these on the actual homework as well. It says a number x increased by 10 is at least 25. So when we instructed this in 7th grade, the students, again, the adding and subtracting part isn't the difficult part. It's the actual writing of the inequality sign. And there were some key words to try and help you guys out. Not as many students were as successful as we would have liked, but let's see if you can do a little bit better as an 8th grade. So we know increased, again, is going to be our addition part. It's this is at least 25. That's the part where students struggle a little bit. So x plus 10 is at least 25. So that means, can it be 26 or can it be 24? Which one is it going to be? Less than or is it going to be greater than? Is it going to include the equal part? Let's see. Is at least 25. Well, that means it can be 25, which means it has the equal part. And at least means it can be more or greater. So we're going to say x plus 10 is greater than or equal to 25. At most would be the other way. At least means it can be bigger or greater. All right, so again, just quick subtraction and quick graph. So remember, you don't need all those numbers. You just need the important number in the middle and one number on each side. And quick way shading going to the right. So again, it's the tricky part with the inequality sign, at least 25, or is it at most 25, or is it actually maybe just be nice and uses the less than, maybe uses the greater than words. So really look for those key terms there. 5 less than a number is greater than 12. Remember, less than, a little bit tricky there for students. 5 less than a number is actually x subtract 5, not 5 subtract x. Hey, look at this one. It gives us our actual word, greater than. Notice how there's no equal part, so is greater than 12. And then just a quick solving. Remember, only important number in the middle, one on each side, save you a little bit of time. Open dot to the right again. All right, so finish that up on your notes, and then on your worksheet, you should have your name and your number, and we're going to go ahead and do just a few together to help you guys out. Discard. All right. So my suggestion again on these problems for number 1 is you want it to look like number 2. So you could solve it and then fix it. Or you could fix it and then solve it. Totally up to you. So for example, here's your first option, is you would just subtract 6 here. So that's a P, and that's a 6. And then right next to it again is you can fix it. And then it says, okay, greater, or wants to consume the variable. There we go. And then you graph it right there. All right, so that's option number 1. Option number 2 is the way that I personally like doing. I like rewriting it from the very beginning. So for example, I would put the 12 over here. And noticing the original inequality, it does not like the 12. It likes the P plus 6. So we're going to go in and write it just like that. Again, it does not want the 12. And then I just lightly cross this off. Now it has a much better looking problem. It looks just like number 2, where I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6 both sides. So P is greater than 6. So if you notice, it's the exact same thing as option number 1. I just prefer option number 2. And then I could do my quick graph. 6 in the center, so we got 5, 6, 7. Looking at my inequality sign, on number 1, it does not have the equal part. Number 2, it does have the equal part. So that means this one is an open dot, while on number 2, that's going to be a closed dot. Because again, equal sign has the little equal part means closed dot. And then shading. So I'm going to grab a second color. So again, you can do your pencil and make it a little bit darker. You can raise it up, whatever you'd like. P is greater than 6. Well, 7 is greater than 6. So I'm going to shade it to the right. Again, just make it a little bit darker or use a second color. You can use a highlighter if you'd like as well. So again, importance to rewrite it, either at the beginning or at the end. Totally up to you. All right, so for example, on number 5, you'd want to rewrite, but number 6, it looks okay. Number 9 looks okay. 10 looks okay. Ooh, let's go ahead and look at this one real quick. So on number 12, got fractions. So I'm going to write it over here again. So I got 6 and 9 tenths. It does like the 6 and 9 tenths. The inequality sign is open to that. And right here, if you can, let me get the lights. Is remember that 4 and 4/5 can be written into a denominator of 10. So I'll show that again in just a moment. So let's go ahead and subtract 4 and 4/5, both sides. So that gives me x is less than or equal to. All right, so running a little space over here so I can bring it down. 6 and 9 tenths. Subtract 4 and something tenths. So remember, 5 times 2 is how I get the 10. So 4 times 2 is how I get the 8. So 6 and 9 tenths subtract 4 and 8 tenths. So 9 subtract 8 is allowed. So I got 1 tenth. 6 subtract 4 is 2. So I got 2 and 1 tenth. So I go ahead and make this. I got 2 and 1 tenths. And at this point, maybe you want to decide, okay, this is 2 and then this is 3. Because remember, those numbers are just kind of giving you a reference point for your shading. All right, less than or equal to, which means closed dot. Less than means going to the left. All right, looks good. So our first few again, just some quick basic solving and graphing. Remember, it might require some rewriting, like on number 11. You can rewrite it now. You can rewrite it at the end. Totally up to you. We've got our word problems here, just like I helped you on the worksheet. You're going to go ahead and write them and then solve them. Be careful with that less than key. Remember, it was just like on the worksheet. Is greater than 32. That's pretty good. Less than or equal to 4. That's pretty good. Number increased by 6. So that's just like on the notes. Number R decreased by 13. Now let's do this one real quick. So number R, so that's our variable R, decreased by 13. So for this one, it can just be written as R subtract 13. 15 over here is at most 15, which means it can be equal to the 15, but it cannot go over. It cannot be greater than 15, so it has to be less than 15. All right, for that one, I think you can solve it. Pretty basic. Go ahead and do that and quick graph. All right, on the next section, after you solve it, instead of graphing it, you would have to match it up. So remember, ask yourself, is it an open dot or is it a closed dot? That helps you determine, maybe you can remove some answers in your thinking. And then, of course, which way is the shading going to go? Is it going to go left or is it going to go right? On the last part here in these word problems, just go ahead and do your best to set it up using your key terms. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to look at with you is this one right here. So again, refresher from your Chapter 7 information. Solve for x. So if this is 10 and these are congruent sides, well, we can say that this is a 5 and this is a 5. If you want to rewrite it, we now know that this is 5, this is 13, and this is our unknown. So again, you can do your Pythagorean theorem, where if this is our 90 degree, our hypothesis, not hypothesis. Man, I'm blanking, sorry. We got 13 there, squared, x squared, plus 5 squared. So if you remember though, it is a triple. If you did not know it was a triple, you would have to finish the work to find out that the missing side, A or B, is going to be our 12. All right, at that time, you're going to go ahead and continue to work on the worksheet. Thanks for being a great class. Be awesome.